Welcome, friends. For those who are new here, I'm Patrina with Homegrown Florida. I cannot believe how big my Roselle have gotten this year. And there's one big thing that I did that was different. I have grown Roselles pretty much every way that you can imagine, from in pots to in raised beds, partial sun, full sun, in the native soil. And there's a very, very clear winner of which one of those does better than the other. I mean, all you gotta do is take a look at this beast right here. Do you see how big that Roselle is? My husband and I have this running joke that given the chance, if we were to just walk by this Roselle one day on this sidewalk, that it's just gonna snatch us right up because it is so huge. Take a look at the inside. Look at the trunk of that Roselle. Does that not look like a tree growing in there? I'm feeling bad for my firebush. It looks like it's being bullied into the corner. Firebush is native. It should have no problem outgrowing this Roselle. But this Roselle is clearly outgrowing. We haven't even been able to cut the grass down here because it's taking up way over outside of the little flower bed. I'm shocked. So we're gonna harvest this white Roselle right here, but before we do that, I'm gonna get suited up. I've had a little bit of a problem with wasps this year, and they tend to love to live in the hibiscus plants, which Roselle is part of the hibiscus family. I don't know what it is with their fascination with it, but the other day I got stung and I wasn't too pleased with that experience. 0 out of 10, would not recommend. Anyway, so I put my sleeves on. These are Farmer's Dispense sleeves. I use them for things like this, where hopefully it doesn't sting through, but also I use it with squash plants because I have like a really bad reaction, like a contact dermatitis or something, when I touch squash plant leaves. So whenever I'm tearing down a squash plant, I use these. So these are white Roselle. And while we harvest these, I kind of want to talk to you about what some of the issues are that you might actually be facing and how to fix them, right? Because Roselle should grow very easy for us here in Florida, but for some, it doesn't grow that easy. So one of the first things that I experienced growing Roselle was I grew it in a pot. And in a pot, they got kind of tall, lanky, with not a lot of branching. The next way, I was like, okay, maybe it doesn't have enough space for the roots, right? It's a pretty big plant. This one's actually the smallest of the ones that I have, but it's a pretty big plant. So maybe it just doesn't like being restricted in a pot. So I decided I was going to put it in my raised beds. That was a horrific idea. Like, I thought it was a great idea. You know, it's got great nutrients. It's got tons of water. I can keep it well fed, all the things. Yeah, no, that was a terrible, terrible idea. Actually, the pot was a better idea than the raised beds, because what happened was I started getting this weird disease. The leaves were not green. They were starting to turn like purple, and then they had splotching and yellowing and all kinds of stuff on them, and it never really branched out well, and it never really produced well, if I'm being completely honest. I got, I don't know, like a quart-sized jar of them. And that was pretty much it. So that way I was like, okay, can't do that. So then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go native. I'm going to go put it in the native Florida soil, right? Which to me, I'm like, I don't see how any plant can grow in that stuff because it has no nutrients. It has like, it barely keeps the water, but I'm like, you know what? You got to keep trying things, right? So I put it on this side of my house. That's the west side of my house, so that I could protect it, because I thought, oh, it probably doesn't want a ton of sun, you know, because most plants in Florida don't. And so I put it on the west side of my house, and it definitely did better. It was probably the best year I'd had up until that point. It did a lot better, but it still wasn't as big. I mean, I'm seeing people with plants, you know, as big as this one, and I'm like, why is that not getting bigger? It was kind of getting tall and lanky, and it was leaning. All the signs that told me that it was leggy and leaning, those are easy signs for your plant is not getting enough sun, which I thought was wild because it was on the west side of my house, which is the sunniest side of our homes here in Florida. So I'm like, why is it doing that? So I got my harvest that year, and then this year I decided I'll put some on this side, on the west side that I had been using, but I'm also going to put some up front. And up front for me is the north side of my house. And it's full sun, but it's a light full sun. It's not like harsh, you know. The south side of your yard tends to be a bit more harsh compared to the north side. It's something about, you know, the way the sun sits in the sky. And so I thought, you know, maybe it would do better on this side. Clearly I was right. It did amazing on this side. So I have my first bucket full of Roselle. I've been getting about this every single week off this plant, and you probably still see that there's some still on here. It's because I like to wait for them to be a bit more mature. So the longer you let them sit, the bigger and puffier they become instead of having tiny Roselle. But don't wait too long because then they start to dry on the plant and they're no good for eating after that. But they are good for saving seed, which is what I'm going to do when we get a little bit closer to the end of the season. Now, if you've been having the same kind of problems with your plants, make sure to head down and hit that subscribe button. I love doing troubleshooting videos, so I do a lot of them. If you go back through my catalog, you're going to see a ton of them of how I troubleshooted all the common problems across all different plants, and you don't want to miss that, so subscribe, hit the notification bell. And if you're on a mobile device, there is this new thing, I guess it's in YouTube, called hyping. I would absolutely adore it if you guys would go down and hit that hype button. It'll help, hopefully, push this video out to more people who maybe want to grow Roselle. I'm about to share with you what exactly you need to do to get your Roselles to grow this big, but I wanted to show you this one first. This is another type of white Roselle, and it's not quite ready. I'm actually not really sure why that one was ready 2 months before this one, but hey, whatever. These just started flowering and budding, so let me show you that. You can see I do have a couple here that might be what I consider mature size, but there's not very many. Most of them are small, like these guys. And then up here is the buds, right? So this one actually has the flower on it. That flower has already opened and bloomed, and it's getting ready to fall off. You're actually going to see a lot of the flowers that have dropped here onto my sidewalk. That's super normal. Once it drops, then it opens. You see the little opening right there. And then eventually after 2 weeks, it will swell. And then we have the newer buds up here, and you can see there's going to be a lot. So we're going to head over to this one, which is honestly my least favorite one to harvest, but it's my favorite variety. This is like a Thai red Roselle. This is the typical Roselles that you see in most people's garden that are red. See how big that plant is? And look at those red Roselles. Now really the only difference between the red and the white is that the red is pretty. It's red. It looks like cranberry. Kind of gives you that cranberry feel if you're going to make cranberry sauce. You know, the white doesn't quite do that, but they both taste exactly the same. Now the reason why I hate harvesting this one is because this is where the wasps are. So we're going to glove back up and hope not to get stung. I can already see the wasp flying around. I got stung last week. I don't want to get stung again. Okay, so while we do this, let's talk about 5 things that you can do to make sure that you get very large Roselles. So the first one is grow them in Florida native sand. I grew them in a raised bed and I thought that that was going to help them. That is not the case. These guys apparently don't like nutrients because anytime I give them any kind of nutrients, feed them fertilizer, give them compost, put them in an enriched bed, like they act a fool. They act like they're dying and they get all these terrible leaf diseases and stuff. I don't know. I think it has to do with that the soil holds the water too much and that bothers them. That's the best I've been able to come up with. So putting them in a raised bed, not the best idea. And I think that holds true for why they don't do good in a pot either, because a pot you're using like raised bed mixes or potting soils, and they tend to have a decent amount of nutrients. When I say these guys like no nutrients, I mean they literally like nothing. They don't want any kind of nutrients. So the Florida sand is actually perfect for them because Florida sand has very little nutrients. Must be something about it that they absolutely love because they grow really well in it. So if you have a spot in the yard, it doesn't have to be a permanent spot. And I understand this is tough for people who maybe rent a space, but if you rent a space, putting them in the ground for a very short period of time and then they come out, you know, you will never notice that they were there. Once this is out, I'm putting in a, what is that plant called? Some flowering plants, a plumeria, I believe is what I'm thinking of. I think I have it back there. I can't remember the dang name. But this is just going to get dug up and replaced with a plumeria once it's done. Although I'm tempted not to do that because they did so well here. I kind of want to put them here next year. I just heard something. I've had some of my snakes hanging out in here too. So this is I hear movement. Are you in here, Gregory? Ooh. Oh, hopefully not. Let's just keep going. I like to pretend that things aren't happening. So the next thing, besides growing them in the Florida sand, is going to be growing with no nutrients. So just like we talked about, you don't want to put them in a very rich soil. You also don't want to feed them. Don't give them any fertilizer. Don't give them any compost. Don't give them any liquid fertilizer. Don't give them worm castings. Don't give them, anything that you can think of. Don't bury scraps nearby. Literally do nothing to feed these guys. And I know it goes against everything that I'm used to doing, but it works. I don't know what to tell you. It works. The next one is full sun. So I put them in partial shade thinking that they would like it better, as does most plants here in Florida, that they would like being in partial shade. That's not the case. They like full sun. Give them full sun. So these guys are in the north side of my house, like I mentioned earlier, and I feel like they do better here. I don't have any in-ground areas on the south side that I could put them, so I suspect they would probably do good on the south side too, but I'm not 100% of that. If you've done that, let me know, because I'd be curious to know. The next thing I did, or I guess a better way to say it, didn't do, was I didn't water them. I didn't water them at all. This area does get some of my sprinkler system, but especially like the ones over there. But this particular one, the sprinkler systems don't hit this back corner. So this guy didn't get watered by my sprinkler system. He solely got watered by the rain. And he appears to prefer that because there's these ones up front that look a little bit diseased, a little unhappy, kind of like what they would look like if they were in my raised beds. Let me show you a leaf. You see that? Compared to the ones in the back here, it's pretty wild, the difference. And I think that that's because these guys up front get just a little bit of spray of my sprinkler system, and the ones in the back get none, because there's a little bit that sprays right through here. And so I'm thinking it has to do with overhead spraying as well. Like there's a lot, but basically give them no water. And then the very last tip, and by far the most important tip for growing these guys big and healthy, and it's going to shock you. Neglect them. Neglect them. Ignore them. Pretend they're not here. Don't water them, don't feed them, don't baby them, don't prune their leaves, don't spray for pests. It's like literally plant them, make sure they get established for a week or two, and then walk away. This is going to shock so many people, especially I have friends that tell me that I deal with fussy plants that they won't deal with. But yeah, these guys prefer to be left alone. It's a really weird phenomenon that there's certain plants in the gardening world that don't like human intervention. That's the way I phrase it. I'm sure that there's like a scientific reason for that. But the more you ignore them, the less you do for them, the bigger they get and the more they produce. I'm actually pretty shocked by this. So here's where I get nervous because I've already seen all the wasps and I need to like crawl up in here. I might start pruning these back a little bit so that way I can get in here a little bit easier. But I'd hate to take off a branch that is doing well, like this one. Woo. And I hope my snakes aren't in here. That would, I love them, but I'm not trying to have a, one-on-one get together right this moment. Oops, dropped it. Okay. It is a jungle back here, guys. A little tip, this is how I know when to harvest them. Because I get this question a lot. So when you see the flowers dropping, you see them on your sidewalk and in your garden and they're dropping out, set your alarm on your phone for 2 weeks and make it a reoccurring alarm. And then what happens is every 2 weeks you come out and you pick all the ones that are lowest on the branch, the biggest ones. And you leave all the small ones for the next 2 weeks. And just come back every 2 weeks and pull them off. And if you do that, you're going to get the biggest Roselles. A little surprised I haven't cut myself yet. Something touched me. Something touched my leg. Ooh, all right, I'm done. That's enough. I don't want things touching me. I have some more bonus tips. We're going to jump into those in just a second. We're going to take these guys inside because there are a ton of bugs on them. Like I said, I don't treat for the bugs, so they have like a significant amount of ants, and I'm sure there's spiders and baby larvae for the wasps. I don't know how those babies happen, but I'm pretty sure there's all kinds of nonsense going on inside of these. So we're going to get these inside and we're going to get them washed. Thank goodness we are back inside because I am burning up. It's so hot outside. It's actually not that bad. It's only 85 degrees, but that was enough to take me completely out. So we're going to put these in a little water bath for about, I'd say 30 minutes, but if you have a significant amount of bugs, I would definitely do an hour. And while that's going on, I want to talk to you about a couple bonus tips about Roselle. So I had a lot of questions through the years, and I think Roselle is probably a little bit of a confusing plant because it doesn't go based on all the other fruits and vegetables, right? So fruits and vegetables like tomatoes, you wait 120 days after you seed it and then you get tomatoes. Well, Roselle is not like that. It is day sensitive or day length sensitive, kind of like garlic and onions. Although we don't really associate garlic and onions with the daylight sensitivity thing because we grow them at certain times of the year and then they produce, and we just assume it has to do with days to harvest, like how many days. But if you started garlic or onions much later than you were supposed to, they'd still grow and they would still bulb at the same time every single year. Well, Roselle is the same way. And it actually does it 2 times a year. So it does it once in spring. It's a much smaller one. It's responding to the fact that daylight length is getting longer. Once it hits a certain number of daylights is when it does that. Well, the same thing happens in fall when the daylight starts to reduce. So as we move away from the summer solstice and we move towards the winter solstice, which is the shortest daylight day of the year, it's triggered once it hits a certain number of daylights, and it causes it to flower. Now, there are certain varieties, I just learned this year, there's certain varieties that are day neutral, meaning that it's not based on that, it's actually based on a number of days to harvest, like our typical vegetable garden. Growhouse.com reached out to me and let me know that they had a variety. I haven't tried it yet, so I can't necessarily say for sure it does, but they do say that it is day neutral, so that could typically mean that you could grow it at any time, which is interesting. I might have to try it out. Another thing that's really interesting about Roselles is they actually come in a couple different colors. So the ones we're typically used to seeing are the red ones, but this year I got into the white ones, and I gotta tell you, there's a lot of different varieties. Even within the red variety, there's a lot of different kinds. There's like a Thai, and then there's, I don't even know them all. And they come in different sizes. They come in different productivity. And I have learned from this year that the white ones are very productive, like way more productive than the Thai Roselle, which is very interesting. I don't know. I really love the red because it really makes everything red, and I like the coloring of stuff. But taste-wise, they taste exactly the same. So hopefully this video was really helpful for you. If you want to support the channel, make sure to head over and check out my book. This is an electronic book or ebook called the Homegrown Florida Gardening Guide. It has 30 chapters with 30 different vegetables, all describing everything you ever wanted to know about growing these vegetables here in Florida. It also has a few fruits in there too, like watermelons and strawberries. So you definitely want to check that out. You can get it at my website, homegrownfloridagarden.com, or head down to the description and I have a link for it there. I hope you had fun. Make sure to head down to the comments. Let me know, what are you going to use your Roselle for this year? I have so much. I'm definitely going to go with a year's worth of tea and cranberry sauce, and I don't know what else. I need inspiration. Leave a comment below. Happy gardening, guys!